now we don't use any birth control method at all, which leads us to the question that everyone is asking. Are you wanting to start a family soon? What's up, dudes? It is just your girl Abby here, alone today. Yes, I know we all miss Matt. He's actually just in the bedroom right there waiting for me to film this. But today's video is all about me and my experience, specifically with birth control. So while it does affect Matt, this is mostly for me to talk about. So also, disclaimer, excuse the mess in our house, like everything going on here, everything going on over here. There's a lot going on, and we are just a disaster, which isn't too far out of the ordinary, but we're a mess, okay? Anyway, so I asked you guys on my Instagram to specifically ask me questions because I keep getting DMs, comments on things, all asking about my IUD experience and everything related to birth control. I figured let's just make this video all of your questions answered. So let's just start with the good old-fashioned question. Do you recommend the IUD? So, little backstory on my IUD experience. I have the Kylina IUD, so I think it's specifically designed for women before they've had babies. There's two different kinds. You can have a hormonal IUD and a non-hormonal. This one is hormonal, so it slowly releases basically the same hormones that you would get when you take oral birth control, but it just releases it slowly into your system. It is implanted in your uterus. You have to have a doctor do a little procedure. It's pretty quick, and they just stick it up in there, and the Kylina stays for up to 5 years. So it's super nice, and that's actually why I recommend it the most, is because it is the most mindless form of birth control. You don't have to remember to take a pill every morning at a certain time. You don't have to make sure you pack certain supplies if you think something's gonna happen. You don't have to track anything. It's all just done for you. You really only have to think about it once, and then once again in 5 years, which is the biggest perk of the IUD, I would say. Another huge perk of the IUD is that it is 99.9% effective. Of course, you're gonna hear these outlying stories that are like, oh, I got pregnant with the IUD. Yeah, I've heard those stories too, but I mean, that's statistics that they share, and I trust it. It worked for me. Something else that was great that I recommend about the IUD is that this isn't necessarily for everyone. The only major side effect I noticed from it is that I no longer got my period. So I had no period for the 2.5 years that I was on the IUD. That's kind of a major perk because you don't have to deal with everything that comes with getting a period. That is why I personally recommend it. I didn't have any major changes in my mood, any major changes in my weight, any major changes in drive, anything like that. I had a great experience with it. I recommend it to people. I would say it's a really great form of contraception. Okay, now for the follow-up question, which is, what made you get off of it? Matt and I had a conversation. Well, we've had ongoing conversations our whole marriage and even before marriage about when we wanted to have birth control and when we wanted to no longer needed it, things like that. Right when we got married, we were like, okay, after graduation, we'll talk about where we're thinking as far as having kids or family planning or things like that. Basically, it was an ongoing conversation with Matt throughout our marriage of when we were going to use birth control and when it was no longer as important. So basically, we just decided that I was having some mood changes, and I was maybe it could be related to the IUD, maybe not. Spoiler alert, I think I still have mood changes, and it really wasn't related to the IUD as much as it's just related to being a girl with hormones. Isn't that great? So we were like, well, we'll try this, and we no longer needed, the 99.9% effective form of birth control. So at the end of July, I decided to have it removed alongside Matt. I didn't just get it removed without him knowing about it. That would not be right. So we just had a conversation about that, and we got it out. Why really just boils down to we no longer needed a form of birth control that was 99.9% effective because we knew that we were going to want to start thinking about family planning sometime in the future, and I really wanted to start getting my hormones regulated before that time. The big question that everyone wants to know, and I don't blame you because I had the exact same question. I am guilty of going on YouTube and looking up everyone's IUD removal experience because I was like, is this going to hurt so bad? And I'll tell you what, there are some scary stories out there. I don't think it's probably a good idea to look it all up because I think that for the majority of people, this is what their experience is like. Here, I'll tell you. Went to the doctor's office. I sat down in little stirrup thingies, and I think that it took her maybe 2 minutes total from when she started to when she's done. She just went in right there, bink, got it out, and I felt a pinch and a cramp when that happened, and it was like a little sharp like kind of pain, and after that I had like some residual light cramping, but it was nothing serious. And after that I put my pants back on and went on my way, and it was really that simple. It really wasn't too bad at all. Like, it was just a pinch, and there were some questions in there that were like, do they give you anything for the pain? For me, they did not. I don't think they normally do, so I wouldn't expect that if you're gonna go in, because it's really not anything major. There's also questions that were asking whether or not it hurt more going in or coming out. I would definitely say going in gonna be more painful, which is funny because so many people are like, I have one in right now and I'm like really scared to get it taken out, so I'm like, tell me, like, how bad is it? The thing is you've already gone through the hardest part by getting it in, and so it's gonna be like a fraction of whatever you experienced when you got it in, most likely. I wouldn't be too afraid of it, because I feel like most people, like, these doctors do this all the time. They know exactly what they're doing. These IUDs were made for insertion and removal. Don't be too worried about it, but I understand if you were. I was too, but it was all right. How long did it take for your period to go back to normal? This is a really good question. I was fully expecting to like be spotting for the next few days after getting it removed, but that didn't happen. I went like I would say almost a week where like there was nothing, and then I had like 30 minutes one random day where I had some light spotting, which in hindsight I think that was really just like from getting it removed, just some changes going on in there. But then literally 1 month exactly from being removed, I started my period just like normal, which was crazy because I hadn't had a period in 2.5 years. I was like, you know, this might take a while. I was trying to be patient, just like I knew it would come back eventually, so I wasn't trying to get worried about it. Sure thing, 30 days later, there comes my period just like normal. It wasn't heavier, or, you know, at first I was like, maybe it's heavier than normal, maybe I'm experiencing more cramping than normal. To be honest with you, I think I more just thought that because I wasn't used to getting a period because I hadn't had one for 2.5 years. Yeah, there was no like major changes in my cycles. And then 30 days later after that, I got my period again. Everything was like back to normal. So I think that it can take up to like 6 months after getting an IUD out. I would talk with your doctor, of course, but don't be concerned if it doesn't come back like exactly a month later. That was just my experience, but it's back like normal, basically. Are your periods irregular because of the birth control removal? No, my periods have been normal ever since getting it removed. I haven't noticed any irregularities in that. But then this one says, have you noticed any hormone spikes in your mental health? Not related to the birth control. I think more just related to like my cycle in general. Like on days you're gonna have more like a surge of hormones. Of course, I like noticed that in my mood, but I don't think it was related to the birth control as much. Did you have any bad symptoms with the IUD? I didn't have any bad symptoms with the IUD. That's why I would recommend it to anyone, at least to try, because you can always get it out. If it's right for you, it's right for you. I don't know. Have you noticed any weight gain or weight loss? No, I think my weight has pretty much stayed I don't weigh myself, but I haven't noticed any like significant weight loss or weight gain since getting off of my IUD. I don't think that would be completely uncommon because, you know, weight can sometimes be connected to hormones. I haven't noticed any major differences related to that. Now, lots of you have been curious, what birth control do you use now? So post getting the IUD removed, Matt and I used birth control methods that were non-hormonal so I can try to regulate those hormones again. And those were just like a pull-out method or condoms. Those are like not as effective, but they were great for Matt and I at the time. But now we don't use any birth control method at all, which leads us to the question that everyone is asking. Are you wanting to start a family soon? Yeah, I think that in the perfect timing for us to start a family, it will happen. Yeah, basically I don't want to share like too much about that journey because it's kind of sensitive to me and kind of private. So we'll just leave it at that, is that yes, we would love to start a family at some time in the future. If it's now, if it's years from now, that would be the case. But yeah, I'm just asking for a little bit more privacy in that area because I don't know, sometimes I feel like I put so much out there onto the internet. Sometimes I'm like, there's some categories of my life that I would like to just keep a little bit reserved for me, just in case, you know, there's so many things that can go on with a woman's fertility journey. But I think you guys know what you need to know is that we would love to have a baby at some point, and yeah, we're not preventing pregnancy right now. We got this personal question here, which is, has your drive changed? I didn't really notice any changes in that also after getting the IUD removed. Also, people are asking about my skin. I don't notice any major differences. Every time I like think that I'm like, oh, I don't have any pimples right now, I think the IUD was the reason why. It's not. I mean, like, there's so many factors that affect it. So there was no drastic changes in either one of those things for me at least. Oh yeah, someone asked how bad did it hurt on a scale of 1 to 10, and I would literally give it a 2. Mostly because it's just for such a short amount of time. Like, it's a pinch for less than a minute. I mean, it has to come out too. Like, there's no other way. If you have one in, it's gotta come out. It's just a pinch. It's not a big deal. Could you please tap that like button and subscribe if you haven't already? We really appreciate it. It helps us out so much. It's free. It's easy. It's quick. Okay, let's just end on this one. Do you feel any different? Post IUD removal, I really don't feel any different. I actually feel the same. I would say that there's been very little changes, except there's just obviously more thought in contraception methods. Of course, getting a period again, there's a lot more to do with that. I forgot how much goes into a period until I got my IUD removed. That was definitely a perk of having my IUD, is that I didn't have to deal with all that. In general, I feel like I didn't have any massive changes with my body or my moods or anything like that. It was pretty much a really seamless experience with the IUD. I recommend it to people. Obviously, there's a right time in someone's life for an IUD, and then there's a time for when it's not right anymore. And that's basically just what happened with me. I was like, it was right when we got married, and then now it's no longer the right method anymore. That is all for today. If there's more questions, of course, if it's posted within the first hour of this video getting posted, I will get back to you as best I can. For those of you that don't know, I heart and read every comment and respond to most in the first hour of the video getting posted. So make sure you have your post notifications on. Yeah, I hope I answered every question that you guys wanted. I did my best here while still maintaining some sense of privacy about such a private subject. Until next time, peace out, dudes.